Welcome back to another episode of Save My Stuff.
Here we have one of my friend's Anbernic devices. So unfortunately this one has a somewhat common fault, and that's that no sound comes out of this audio jack. So let's just turn this on and let's see if that's actually true. Sound definitely works out of this front firing speaker. Let's plug my earphones in.
Voice over me here. I was just playing around with the device and I put the earphone up to the speaker and there's no sound, but if you jiggle that audio port around a little bit, then there is sound coming out of the earphone. So that makes me think that there is a weak solder joint on the earphone jack or the headphone jack, and we are going to try and solve that right now. I got my screwdriver kit out here, but unfortunately I realized that these screws in the housing are so recessed I had to get out the Allen key. But otherwise, very easy, just removing the 6 screws that hold the body together. Next, we can get a pick and just pry the 2 parts of the body open, and then we'll have access to the insides. Here you can see we have a speaker cable right at the bottom. I want to be very careful while I'm opening it that I don't snap it.
And that's it.
Next, to go a bit further down into the device, we're going to have to remove a few more screws. And don't forget to keep track of where each of these goes.
Looks like we also have another cable here, and I'm going to have to remove this. It's coming apart. Yep, nice.
With the screen cable, we're going to have to undo a latch first and then slowly slide out the ribbon cable.
No, I've got it. It's out. We're out, boys. We are out of there.
Now, just grabbing it from the bottom, we can remove the full PCB away from the rest of the body, finally.
I think you can see that crack there. If I can actually easily bend that up and down.
Time to bust out the soldering iron. First thing we're going to do, we're going to try and clean all this old solder up, at least a little bit. So I've applied a little bit of flux, and then we're going to bust out the solder wick, get out the soldering iron, and try and just remove some of that old solder on there so we can apply some fresh new stuff. After using the soldering wick, there is a little bit of residue left over, so we're going to get out some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip, and we're just going to clean up our mess. I did this at least one more time. Might have been twice, but it was because I just wasn't happy with how much solder was being removed, so I decided to go back and just repeat the process again. I wanted to get as clean as the surface for the new solder as I could. There I tried to apply some new solder. Unfortunately, it did not flow that well, so I've decided to add a little bit of flux here and then try and resolder it again. I increased the temperature on the soldering iron, and that seemed to make the solder flow a little bit better, but it was still not flowing as smoothly as I would like. Anyway, the joint felt solid, so I decided to clean it up with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol again. Then I just double checked the solder joint, and that is very, very solid. Now we're going to go back through reassembly. I did lose a couple of buttons the first time I closed this up, but then I went back, found them, and then put them back in, of course. I did an initial test without closing it up fully. I just wanted to see with the battery connected, is it going to power on? And it looks like we are good. Now just time to close the rest of it up, go back in reverse, and put all the screws back in. Once I've reassembled fully and turned it back on, I'm going to have to test out all the functionality of the buttons and make sure that everything still works. I don't want to make any mistakes here.
Okay, now it's all closed up. Let's test this one more time with all the buttons installed. That's a good first sign. So I'm also going to want to check all the buttons work, the speaker works, SD cards work, headphone works, USB-C. I don't think there's going to be any issues, but we can also test that. I could see that lit up, so probably means it's charging. Yep, okay, that's good. Speakers work. What else do I need to test? M for menu. Language, network, background, button sound, buttons custom. Reset, that works. Last test is obviously the headphone jack. Alright, that's done. And we are done. Whew! Took me about half an hour. Oh crap, that actually took me about an hour, including all the recording, going to find all my stuff, but not a hard job. I think realistically, probably can be done in 15 or 20 minutes. Well, that's it. Like and subscribe. Bye.